is Jeff Crane. I'm with Glyph.id. I'll try to make this short. My business partner, James Greaves, who's the CEO of Glyph, sent me an article in the New York Times about a guy, obviously named Brock Pierce. And because I'm ADD and I don't read, I just saw a picture. I said, okay, let's go. So we got a one-way ticket, and within about 2 weeks, we were invited to a very special party. And the invitation came from this man. There were two people that impressed us to come to Puerto Rico. So the summary in my introduction is we went there with a one-way ticket, and Maya Angelou once said, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. When we went there, we felt loved and welcomed and included, and Michael was one of those people. He put us in a room with leaders from that island that formed the government and made sure that the government ran the way it should, and he wanted to make sure that they were introduced to the proper criminals. If you're in proper villains, if you're in England, they say proper villains, right? And so we went in and we were just so dumbfounded, and the message was this, and then I'll pass it on: partner with the locals. So when you come to Puerto Rico, because you're going to, and I invite you to come and see me, because I will show you all around Puerto Rico, all the best places, I promise you. And take your no-dos, because you're not going to fall asleep. You're going to love it. And that's what we did, and we'll talk later of how we started our company. But the long story short is we burned our bridges. We relocated from Delaware to Puerto Rico. My partner moved his 5 kids and family, and we made that decision in 6 weeks.
And so my story was probably not too dissimilar in the sense that I'd heard about Puerto Rico as a great tax destination from a friend of mine, Ralph Amato, who was one of the very first Act 22s, period. I think he's one of the top 20 or 30.
Top 30, I think.
Top 30, it was like I think 2013.
Yeah.
So I mean, literally the first year they were granting them. And his story was basically that he is an investment banker, nothing to do with crypto. He's an investment banker, and he does reverse mergers and was largely taking companies public, Chinese companies, onto like the OTC markets. And so he spent a lot of time in China, and he was just like baffled and enraged by the fact that even though, because his wife and kids and home was in La Jolla, he would take, companies in China and take them public on OTC markets, and he would pay between the capital gains that he had if it was short term and the California state tax that keeps going up every year as people start leaving because of tax reasons, and then they say, oh, we need to raise taxes now. More people have left with money. It'll probably be like 90% tax at some point. But literally he's just like, I thought I made like $1 million in that deal, but after tax, I guess it's more like 400,000. And so he had heard about Puerto Rico. He went down. Back then, that was in the Stone Age. He said, yeah, you should really check it out. He goes, everybody lives in the Ritz-Carlton in Dorado Beach. It's the only place that's safe on the island. But it's safe, and you can just live there, and there's cool people in the Ritz-Carlton Dorado, and you spend half the year there and you pay no tax. He eventually moved to Condado Beach, right? So, it's when you go there, I mean, obviously, I think it's great being in a culture where you get to keep your American passport, and you're still, it's like living in Europe and South America at the same time. And it's got so many blends of culture. I mean, that's what I love about the place. Plus, it's not bad, being 85 degrees at the beach, every day. But basically, I was in Hawaii with my wife, Maxine, who you'll all meet at the legendary dinner. I was starting to look at my crypto portfolio and companies that I'd help do ICOs in 2014 that were getting ready to trade in 2015 that were getting ready to trade in 2016, and it was like Factom and Ethereum and MadeSafe, and all of a sudden, January rolls around and some of these things start trading, and I was just like, oh boy, and I could sort of see it. I think one of them already started trading, and it's just like, okay, we are going to either pay an awful lot of taxes this next year, or even living in Nevada, or we should consider moving to Puerto Rico. And she said, well, all I know about Puerto Rico, I said, it's lovely weather, just like Hawaii. It was, sort of part of the pitch. And she said, well, all I know about Puerto Rico is West Side Story. So I don't know what she was thinking, that was just all like gangbangers who sing and dance. I mean, but we ended up coming down for the Puerto Rico Investment Summit that was in early February. It was the weekend of my birthday. And, I ended up getting myself just called in and said, hey, I see you have a technology panel and no moderator. I kind of know a little bit about technology, so I got myself a moderator position. And we fell in love with the island. And I was looking around because I thought that was a good one-stop shop to meet everyone. That's where I met Giovanni. And we came back with a whole pack of material and spent a couple weeks considering it. And then we had a trip to Florida a few weeks after that. And I said, let's move to Puerto Rico at that point, and we did. We went in, got our apartment, and started the journey. And, so we're there. And then just recently, because one thing that Giovanni didn't mention, or if he did, I missed it, was the laws change a little bit every year. So they're really good right now, and you can't necessarily expect that they're going to be exactly the same next year. It used to be that you didn't have to do the annual $5,000 contribution. You just had to buy a home, and it could be a home of any amount.
Yes.
When Ralph went, literally there was nothing. It's
50
like
bucks.
50 bucks, and you got it.
Yeah.
So every year they made it a little bit tougher. But on the other hand, when the new administration came in, they also made it easier for the Act 20, the business one. It used to be that you had to require 5 full-time employees. And so I could have done the 20 and the 22 at the same time. I didn't, because I didn't know that I would be able to cost justify the 5 full-time employees. And I wish I had, because the hurricane hit and it delayed, and I finally this year got my my Act 20, and would have saved a lot on taxes because we had a good year last year. And I had to end up paying half of that to the United States based on the number of days I'm there. So moved to Puerto Rico, start a company there, buy an enterprise zone. It's all good stuff, and we'll see you at the salsa club that has Big Bag Monday. I stream it every Monday night I'm in town.
You gotta go. If you can, you gotta go.
At any rate, so Giovanni, question. What have you seen change since early 2016 in terms of, patient zero, as Brock calls me, to like, what was life like AB and before Brock and after Brock in terms of like A, perception on the island, and B, just sort of like the types of people who are approaching you now?
Yeah, so I think in general, the numbers between when you came to Puerto Rico and just late 2017, there was maybe 24 crypto investors on the island. And there was probably more if you count the private equity guys that bought Bitcoin early on just to speculate. But I mean, like, people really in the crypto space. Interestingly enough, after the hurricane, like the week after the hurricane, my first meeting was with Damizinis. So it's a crypto guy that still, kind of reassures you, is like, no, I'm moving anyway. So, and after that, it was just a snowball effect. And that included Brock and his group, and Scott Walker and this group of people that were moving here, but just, kind of people out of everywhere that were either related or maybe not so much related, and blew up there. And that's where I met guys from Glyph as well. What's changed? I think it's a lot more just innovation. People that are connecting also to the community. What you said, connect with the locals. Before that, it was a lot of gentrification. Yeah, it was, and it was a lot of Dorado Beach, which is fine. Dorado Beach is beautiful, by the way. So it's a great club, but the just mixing in with the local community and opening up opportunities, especially for the younger crowds, the smart guys, the developers. My little brother's being trained in Solidity right now. He was a physics major, and he just switched to computer sciences. And seeing all this opportunity, that's a major change. So new companies that are now just local companies in Puerto Rico, and then that also helps perception-wise, government-wise, because some time ago you would talk about blockchain, and not only in the government and even in the private sector, in the firm I used to work with, people were thinking more about like cannabis was going to be the next big thing. It still may be big, but at least I put my bet on blockchain and cryptocurrency, and to now it's paid off. The government formed the Blockchain Advisory Council just this year. So, even though blockchain has been in this space for so much time, with this invasion of now hundreds of people from just 2 dozen to hundreds of people being there, whether they apply for the grant or not, because some people are in the blockchain space, but maybe are not in the level yet of being an individual investor. But they're searching for the opportunity. The government obviously has recognized that. They put together the Blockchain Advisory Council, which I think is a very good signal of how they're adopting the community as well.
Can I answer that part of that question? One of the other reasons, and you ruined it for me because I was going to tell everybody the secret, that the third day we were there, we bumped into Giovanni. You have to have, like in a pier, really strong pylons, and Giovanni is a master pylon for us, because if you go down the wrong road, you're going to go down the wrong road, right? Yep. The major difference in the last 2 to 3 years is millennials. If you look up the statistics in Puerto Rico, some of the sharpest minds from NASA and any kind of high-tech area, per capita, you're going to find that in Puerto Rico. The millennials are freaking out right now because they see on their phone what life is outside of that island, and they have a choice. You can be an Uber driver, or you can program. There's a true story. You know Gabriel, the chocolatier, right? Everyone know Gabriel. We had a guy who was so gracious. His parents own a chocolate company in Puerto Rico. They have these chocolatiers. Long story short is, he was working at a tech company, but he makes chocolates. Every time he walked in the door, he looked for the broom because he didn't know how to code. He was freaked out. He didn't know what to do. So he picked up the broom because he wanted to be in a tech company. When we were down there, I was in a bar, which I will all take you there because you're all coming with me, called La Factoria. Does anybody know the Factoria? Okay. It's legendary. It's like Disneyland of bars. I was watching him in the bar, and you're not going to believe this. It was a true freaking story. I was watching him in the bar pick up a chick, a lady, a woman. I apologize. A lady. Right? And he was, okay, the day before, he was at a blockchain class. And within 4 hours, he had learned how to program on the blockchain, and he was using that as a pickup line. The difference in Puerto Rico is you have these millennials who are so freaking hungry, and they are all very hungry. No offense to LA, because I'm from there. No offense to New York City. They're spoiled friggin' brats. They get everything they want. These kids, they don't get anything. So you just give them a little bit, they will take it. Now, before I pass it to Michael, do me a favor. Raise your hand if you're looking for people to hire that are eager, high-tech, hardworking people. Okay, okay, go to freaking Puerto Rico. Okay, how's that?
Yeah, actually, the University of Mayahuas has, I think, the highest percentage of engineering graduates of like any college in the United States. I mean, it's a crazy number that they put out. And they're all moving to the mainland because they can't get a job in Puerto Rico. And so that's one of the things that Brock has had that as an initiative. I also was a sponsor of the hackathon that they had at Mayahuas. Brock will be here in a little bit. His plane was delayed, but he's going to be here for about a 3:20 or so fireside chat. But he's really dug in deep in the sense of he's literally doing like he's kind of doing what I originally said I was going to do, which was to do meetups around the island. I was going to do 4 blockchain island meetups and have them mainly in San Juan, but do 1 in Mayahuas. He's literally doing like week-long events 4 times a year. The one that's the main one, which is the Restart Week, San Juan, was concurrent with our second CoinAgenda Caribbean, and we've already coordinated that it's going to be right after. Although I'm maybe looking to move the date a little bit earlier in March because apparently that's Asia Blockchain Week in Hong Kong, and I'm just I want to make sure that since everybody's running, and we'll address this in future sessions, out to Asia to go and fundraise. I want to make sure that there's nothing anywhere in the world that's going to stop people from coming to Puerto Rico. So it may end up being the first weekend of March instead of the 3rd. So before South by Southwest instead of after South by. We usually have a tie-in to that. And basically, he now has, and we'll talk about this afternoon, but he has now, next week he's doing something in Ponce, on the south side of the island. I mean, He's doing one in December in Fajardo on the east side of the island. He did again what he did on Mayajuez. But I will say that, like, everybody I think who goes there kind of picks their cause and picks sort of their way to get involved. I mean, I thought, one of my, and again, Brock's kind of like really relates to the millennials because he still looks like a millennial, even though he's in his late 30s. But and he just sort of like kind of he'll go to these little tiny, like, what is it, Crypto Monday or something like that. That interferes, by the way, with my Big Man Monday. They need to move it to another day. But at any rate, but every Monday there's all these. There were none of these when I first moved there. There are now at least 4 or 5 homegrown Puerto Rican in Spanish programming networks and meetups. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's true, and it was a little different because, again, my clients earlier on would come in and they'd walk in the office and start talking blockchain, so they kind of just send them my way, and they would say, hey, could you connect me with other people in the space? And I had a group of maybe 20 people, and not everybody wants to be that involved. Some people are just involved with the local community. They didn't really want to do that. And then when you started Blockchain Island, I was inviting people to come, although there was one that was very full in the Microsoft offices, because that was when people started to get curious. But it's very different now. There's the Crypto Mondays. There's a native beers and blockchain every Wednesday. And then kind of conflicts sometimes with the GBA meetings that happen once a month, and they're happening on Wednesdays as well. But and people are like, oh, they want to go to everyone, and you kind of see groups. You see different people. You see, again, the same old guys that always show up, right? No matter how developed their project has been, but just newer people coming in, and it's very changed. You could see how Puerto Rico is becoming so relevant in the blockchain space. With these things. I wanted to add also on the things being done and the younger side. So Consensus Academy, they're sponsoring scholarships for Puerto Rican students. So you're gonna get your programmers and your developers trained. And even like Consensus has taken a look at Puerto Rico and what's happening there, and that's going to be a major hiring pool.
So we've seen this movie before about how something turns into a tech town. I spent many years as a Nevada resident before moving. And when I first moved to Nevada in 2006, this place was crickets for technology, right? And what it did was it took Zappos. And once you had Zappos grow to the size where it became $1 billion company and got sold to Amazon, all of a sudden all these like millionaires started, and now it's like, what are there, 500-600 startups in the downtown project alone? I mean, it's become a tech town. And really, it's kind of known as the place that you go to sort of start your company, have dedicated talent, and then, unfortunately, usually get sold to Silicon Valley company. But I think that opportunity, Microsoft and then Amazon turned Seattle into a major tech hub. And I think that there's that opportunity in Puerto Rico with Consensus, with Brock's things, with Scott Walker, with some of to sort of be the Kickstarter for thousands and thousands of blockchain jobs.
Yeah, I think the other thing to add, and let's tie it into that Dorado thing. These guys that were Wall Street guys that moved to Dorado initially, they're not blind to what's going on. A lot of them have converted from IPO investors to ICO investors, or they're looking into tech. So, obviously, if you have a lot of money that you want to save, or you're trading, you're doing well, you want to move for tax savings. But if you're a startup, if you're looking to raise capital, there's billions of dollars in capital in Puerto Rico, in Dorado, and they're all looking, they're all very aware of what's happening. So if you have the right product, you could surely match up with the right guys that also want to invest.
And talk about the incentives that they have for actual native Puerto Ricans who can't qualify unless they leave for 6 years. For the, I think it's under 35 years old, because this is great if you're incubating companies.
Yeah, that's great. So it's called Act 135. So it's to incentivize locals in the island, especially young entrepreneurs or employees. So the benefits are twofold. One is if you're under 26, the first $40,000 of your salary are completely excluded from your gross income. So the first $16,000 roughly in Puerto Rico are tax-free. So you add those on, and if you're under 26, you're making $56K, you pay no income tax, and then start at the lowest bracket, which is 7%, which is really good. It's very attractive, and also makes it competitive. You can't pay maybe U.S. salaries, or you won't pay U.S. salaries, butt on the, it's tax-free, so it's what reaches your pocket. And the other one is for young entrepreneurs. If you're under the age of 35, your first $500,000 of revenue are exempt for 3 years. And that includes if you're selling into locals, into the local market in Puerto Rico or outside of Puerto Rico. So it's a benefit beyond Act 20. You have to analyze which one is better depending on where you're at that time. But let's say you're Act 135 for 3 years while you really dip your feet, and then you grew enough, then you can, it doesn't preclude you from converting into an Act 20. So that's another great benefit.
Okay, so yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if anybody heard. I had a little bit of a voice crack when I was talking about Puerto Rico earlier. I was starting to get a little emotional because I just found out before going on here that I got a call from the HOA that I live in. I have 2 homes in Puerto Rico. I've got a city house, which is a condo in Miramar, which every New Year's Eve we have Blockchain Island greets the people coming into the island. And we're going to have it on my rooftop in Miramar this year. We had it actually in Caribe Plaza. Brock spoke. We had about 70, 80 people there. And the best fireworks display at any place, is just in downtown San Juan. It's just the entire city is just lit with fireworks for New Year's Eve. And Vegas has not a bad show if you're on the Strip. We like San Juan better. But we also bought a place. It's kind of a fixer. It's like this. My wife's British, so she wanted to have a place with land. And I said, I want to have a place that's 10 minutes to the airport, and there's no place with land that's 10 minutes to the airport. So I wanted city house. She wanted a country house. So we ended up getting a fixer out in an area called Beverly Hills, Puerto Rico, and it's on a couple of acres. It's this giant place up on a hill, beautiful views, and we're still fixing it up. I literally just got a call before I was getting on stage, and then I texted my wife and was trying to write down people that there were huge flames seen coming from our property. And and so I'm thinking, well, I think we have workers there. And I called one of them, and I'm hoping that it's just them doing something. And he's going like, I can see from my place because it's a hilly area. And so I called my wife, and she just texted me. She said, "Take a breath. They're burning leaves." So that's what I thought it was. So, woo. Otherwise, I'd be not in a happy mood right now. But it also reminded me just how much I love the place. What would happen if that did burn down?
Can I say something about it? Listen, I want you guys to come up to me because we don't have enough time to actually tell the full story. Let me give you 2 data points, okay? Number 1, we were there for 6 weeks. The 7th week, we got the $1.25 million. We came with a white paper, one-way tickets. Thanks a lot to this guy, making sure that we got our paperwork together. But here's so this is a real story, okay? I'm not just making this crap up, right? The second thing is this. You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, because you don't have to embarrass yourself. When's the last time you did a service project? Right. In Puerto Rico, on a weekend, you can put up solar panels on a house that was messed up 2 storms ago. Okay, not just the last one. There's been people in the dark for years, okay? You want to make yourself feel better from taking all this money that we make and we earn and we put in your pocket? Puerto Rico's the place, man. You cannot turn a corner and not have an opportunity to help somebody. And I'm not talking about helping somebody on the street corner, which we all should do, of course. I'm talking about the person who's taking care of their mother, Ida, person who's taking care of her mother because her mother can't get a job, and she's a millennial, and she's out there grinding with 2, 3, or 4 jobs, and she's making it happen. There's a lot of hungry people out there, but when you set your head down on that pillow at night, you're going to feel good because you know you're going to be helping people and literally improving their lives. Taxes are important, but so is your soul.
And tying into that you're saying, and a little bit of what I said, the emergence of tech companies, of blockchain companies moving into Puerto Rico just opens up the horizons and the opportunity in the eyes of the young people of what can I do? Because normally, really the mentality in Puerto Rico for a lot of people is just like, try to get a government job. Go and then they work as volunteers for some politician to try to get some crappy job. Here with these programs and all these entrepreneurs coming in and these technologies coming in, younger people are saying, oh, maybe I could do that. Maybe, kind of learn from that and then just, start their own thing. So it really is a game changer in general.
So in the interest of time, any questions? We'll take 1 or 2, and then we'll move on to the next session. Otherwise, yes, Robert.
More about Puerto Rico, just to
Were you here for his presentation? Yeah. Yeah. Checklist, I'd say, is go there and check the place out because.
Yeah. So do reach out to me because this, it's an ecosystem of service providers in general. So on my website, there's an FAQ on moving and residency. And you could definitely check out the FAQ or just send me an email and I'll send it directly to you.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, it's geo.tax, geo.tax. That's the website. There's an FAQ there and there's some information there. But then on the logistics of moving there, there's concierge services we can connect you with, people that help you get your driver's license, your voter's card, where to move, kind of find that. There's the Puerto Rico government has something that's the Qualified Promoter Program. It's a service that comes at no cost to you because they get compensated from the government, and they help you through these logistics. They help you through things that you normally don't think of. And there's currently 26 promoters out there. Some they all do different types of work for you, but that connecting with one of those is something you can do. And then the concierge services, a couple $100, and they help you with all those things. It's really good.
It really makes a huge difference. And I will say there's two companies I'm going to call out right now. Jen, you're one of them, so you need to go to Puerto Rico. And Vault Logic. Vault Logic is killer because they can just put a machine somewhere, and we'll have to put guards because there'll be 10,000 people circling the machine. So I just wanted to call these two out.
Great. So, Martine.